Chicago was damp and gray in late November. Andrew Miller was getting home from the office later than usual, but his mood was even. He was late not because of an urgent matter, but because he had stopped at a baby store near Clark Lake and bought a soft teddy bear blanket. It was warm, nothing special, but he wanted to bring home small signs like these so that he could believe in himself. In a few weeks, they would be parents. Emily met him in the kitchen. She was standing at the stove, stirring soup, and without turning around, asked, "Did you buy something for the baby again?" "A blanket. Very soft. Do you want to touch it?" She took the blanket, ran her fingers along the edge, and nodded. "Darling, thank you. Just, let's slow down a little. We already have a full closet." "I know, he shrugged. "It helps." Emily smiled, but it faded quickly. They sat down to dinner. He told her about a meeting with a new corporate client. She told him about how work wanted to push a project through the end of the year. Emily worked in external relations at a private clinic on the North Side. Lately, she has been feeling tired and distant more often. Andrew attributed it to her pregnancy and the end of the year. After dinner, he went upstairs to the room they had converted into a nursery. He had assembled the bed himself over the weekend. There were neutral posters of the alphabet on the wall, 3 new baby books on the shelf. He adjusted the mattress, checked the fastenings. He moved carefully, as if in court, when every step had to be precise. "You're there again?" Emily asked from the hallway. "Isn't it too early?" "We need to get used to the idea that everything will change soon." "You already live with that thought," she said, leaning against the door frame. "Sometimes it seems to me that you worry more than I do." "That's okay," he replied. "We've been waiting 7 years. I want to be ready." She nodded. For a second, he thought he saw a hint of weariness in her eyes, mixed with irritation. He decided not to ask. They had agreed to discuss their fears less, to spend more time on the mundane. It had been Emily's initiative, and he had agreed. They stopped by her mother, Susan, in Park Ridge over the weekend. Susan set the table, placed the turkey in the center, and immediately joined in the conversation. "Have you chosen a pediatrician yet? And don't forget to fill out all the forms at the hospital in advance. Otherwise, there will be a rush and you'll miss something." "We'll get everything ready," Andrew answered calmly. "And you, Amy," Susan continued, "don't carry heavy things and don't overwork yourself at work. I told your boss that you need to reduce your workload." "Don't ask for me," Emily snapped. "I can handle it myself." Andrew tried to maintain a friendly tone. He respected Susan, but he felt she was constantly controlling him. The drive back was silent. At home, Emily said, "Mommy is always like this. Don't pay attention." "I don't pay attention," he replied. "The main thing is that you feel okay." He himself felt confident. He had a stable income, a clear career path, and a clear role in his future family. At the office, his partner hinted that the issue of a new partner would be raised in the spring. This spurred him on to work even more attentively. In the evening, he looked through his files and simultaneously read forums for future fathers: what to buy, how to plan the first weeks, what documents to fill out. Sometimes he found himself trying to anticipate any complications. For example, if the baby was born prematurely, how quickly they could get insurance approval for an extra crib in the room. He made a list of contacts: a doctor, a nurse coordinator, an insurance agent, 2 friends with a car in case theirs was in the shop. One day at lunch, a colleague, Matt, teased, "You've become a project manager for the child." "It's better than improvising," Andrew replied. "I prefer a plan." "And what about Emily? Is she not outraged by your plan?" "Sometimes she says I'm going too far, but for the most part, she's calmer." That evening, he stopped at the supermarket. At the checkout, he saw a woman looking at his ring and the box of diapers in the basket. She smiled. "Long nights ahead." "Ready," he said, and was surprised at how confident he sounded. At home, Emily was lying on the couch and texting on her phone. He came up to her and kissed her on the cheek. "How are you feeling?" "I'm tired. My back hurts. Can I skip dinner?" "Of course. I'll make tea." He made tea and sat down next to her. They scrolled through news feeds in silence for a few minutes. He tried to start a conversation about choosing a child car seat, but Emily said she would discuss it tomorrow. He nodded and went to work in his office. And so the week passed. On Friday morning, he appeared in court in a commercial dispute. The presentation went smoothly. The judge asked clarifying questions. The opponent stumbled a couple of times, and Andrew held the line. After the hearing, he went outside, breathed in the cold air, and thought that not everything in life can be planned, but many things can be kept under control if you are not lazy. That same evening, they went to a friend's house for pizza. The company was mixed, some with children, some without. Emily laughed at jokes, talked about her work. Andrew noticed that she went off to the side several times to answer messages. He did not pay attention to it. Late at night, he offered to call a cab so as not to freeze, but Emily said she wanted to walk. They walked 3 blocks in silence, then she said, "I'm nervous before giving birth. This is fine. Sometimes I feel like I have no control over anything. We are together," he said. "I am close." She squeezed his hand. He felt relieved. It was important for him to know that they were on the same side. On Saturday, he was busy with the nursery again. He screwed a shelf for diapers to the wall, straightened the rug. He turned on some quiet music. He imagined how he would carry the baby around the room and rock him. The thoughts were simple and clear. At that moment, the phone rang. "Andrew," Emily's voice was sharp. "I'm in the hospital." "What? What happened?" "Contractions have started. Early. I'm at mercy. I'm leaving." He turned off the music, grabbed his keys, wallet, and jacket. Before leaving, he picked up the bag he had packed for Emily. It had been sitting by the door for a week. In the car, he dialed Matt. "I'm going to Mercy. Emily's going into labor. You can handle it. Call me if anything happens." The journey took less than 20 minutes. He drove with concentration, without unnecessary speed. At red traffic lights, he tapped his fingers on the steering wheel briefly, counting his breaths. The visitor's parking lot was almost empty. He took his bag and quickly went up to the right floor. The corridor was quiet. It smelled of antiseptic. At the nurse's station, he said, "Emily Miller. I was called." "Room 312, the nurse answered, checking the screen. "Are you the husband?" "Yes." He walked down the hallway and felt a thrill rising in his chest that wasn't fear. It was more like a willingness to act. He pushed the door open and saw Emily on the bed. The room was warm. Something was quietly squeaking nearby. Emily was pale, but calm. "You got here quickly," she said. "How are you?" "It's bearable. The doctor said everything was going well, just ahead of schedule." "We'll manage," he said, and put the bag down by the chair. "I'm nearby." The doctor came in a couple of minutes later, introduced himself, and explained that it was important to monitor the dynamics now. He spoke in an even voice. Andrew asked practical questions: who to contact for insurance, what documents to fill out, what was the plan for the next few hours. The doctor answered briefly and clearly, and the nurse brought the forms. Emily was tired, but she held on. Andrew sat next to her, holding her hand. He recalled how they had met, a legal appointment at the center, when she worked for the foundation, not the clinic. They had immediately found common ground. The move, the wedding in a small hall, 7 years of trying to become parents, the tests, the waiting. It all fit into a few short pictures, like a to-do list that he went through over and over in his head. In the hallway, he called Susan. "Emily is at Mercy. Contractions have started." "I'm leaving," she said immediately. "Are you with her?" "Yes." "Tell me if you need to bring something." "We have everything." He returned to the room. Emily was dozing. He sat by the window and looked out at the city. Car lights, occasional pedestrians, a typical Saturday night. His thoughts were simple: wait, help, process. An hour later, Emily woke up and said, "Sorry for the unannounced warning. It all started so quickly." "It's not your fault," he replied. "It happens." She nodded and closed her eyes. The nurse checked her vitals and suggested that Andrew step outside for a minute to get some air. He walked down the hall, bought a bottle of water from the vending machine, and returned. Time dragged on, but the wait was understandable. He went through the list over and over in his mind. Notify insurance after the baby was born, contact the pediatrician, text Matt and his sister. He looked at his phone, opened the text with the room address, and forwarded it to his family. Around 2 o'clock in the morning, the doctor said that the process was speeding up. Andrew took Emily's hand. She squeezed his palm tightly and said quietly, "Be with me. I'm here." He didn't think about timing, dates, or wait. He thought about the fact that in a few hours they would become a family of 3. He was ready for that and saw no reason to doubt it. The door opened and a nurse came in with a new batch of instruments. Andrew asked, "Is there something we need to sign right now?" "Later," she replied. "For now, just be there." He nodded. Everything inside him was calm and collected. He thought about how he would take the first things home in the morning, how he would show them the nursery, how he would put a new coffee maker in the kitchen to get through the first weeks. He held Emily's hand and repeated the same thing. "I'm here. Everything is fine." The morning began without fuss. The nurses changed the bedside sign. The pediatrician popped in for a minute. The baby snuffled in the bassinet. On the whiteboard next to Emily's name, in black marker, was written, "Ga 39 plus 2, Ed, 11/30." Andrew froze. 39 weeks, 2 days. Estimated due date, November 30th. He pulled out his phone, opened his calendar, and looked at the note from the spring OB appointment. Ed, 12/27. That's almost 4 weeks apart. "Do you see this?" he asked quietly, showing the board to Emily. "What exactly?" She rubbed her temples tiredly. "The deadline. Here it is, the end of November. They told us the 27th of December. The doctor said that the due date is determined by ultrasound," she replied. "Maybe they recalculated." "A month in advance." Andrew kept his voice low. "That's not a small adjustment." An administrator entered the room with a tablet and a packet of papers. "Good morning. We need to collect data for the birth certificate. Mom confirms the information. Dad signs here and here." "Wait," Andrew said. "We need to clarify the timing. We're not ready to sign right now." "No problem," the administrator nodded. "We have up to 10 days, but we usually process before discharge. I'll come later." She left. Emily looked down. "You're making an interrogation out of this." "I'm making a date check out of this," he said calmly. "The board says 39 weeks. That means conception is at the end of February." He opened the calendar again. Flights, hotel reservations, and meetings were marked. From February 14th to March 3rd, I was on a business trip. Phoenix, Dallas, Austin. Remember? Arbitration on Harbor Tech. "I remember," she answered briefly. "I haven't been back to Chicago for a day. I have tickets and hotel bills." He put the phone away. "Let's talk to the doctor. I'm not signing any paperwork until I get it straightened out." Emily turned to the window. 10 minutes later, the obstetrician came in. He congratulated me and asked how I was feeling. Andrew got straight to the point. "Doctor, the board says 39 weeks and Ed is November 30th. In the spring, they told us December 27th. Please explain why there is such a difference." The doctor displayed the recordings on the screen. The initial assessment was indeed at the end of December based on early data. After a control ultrasound at 20 weeks, the term was adjusted, Ed 11/30. This is standard. We specify based on the size of the fetus. The birth was at full term, no prematurity. "Can you print out the sheet with the Ed and the 39 plus 2 mark?" Andrew asked. Of course, the doctor sent a request to the post printer. And also, everything about the child corresponds to the term skin, nails, weight. "Got it." Andrew nodded. "Thank you." When the doctor left, Andrew put the copy in the folder. Susan entered the room and put coffee on the table. "Give me the documents, I'll have a look," she said, reaching for the folder. "Susan," Andrew stopped her calmly, "the signatures are our decision. We're not signing today. Why? Susan frowned. The sooner the better. Less running around. Because the dates are exactly a month apart, he said, and also because I was out of town at the end of February. Susan exhaled sharply. Are you hinting at something? I'm talking about facts. He looked at Emily. Did you know about the recalculation of the term? They told me they specified it. I didn't look into the numbers, she replied. I was nervous about my pregnancy and work. Okay, he nodded. Then here's how it is. I'm not signing today, and I want a DNA test after I'm discharged. This is not an attack. This is a normal procedure when there's a dispute about the timing. That's a shame to hear on a day like this, Emily said quietly. I hate to say it either, he said, but that's a 4-week difference. And during that time, I was in Phoenix, Dallas, and Austin without a single night at home. Susan flushed. You have to support your daughter. You are a husband. I support you with comfort, care, money, Andrew said evenly. But the signature is a legal acknowledgement of paternity. I can't sign it without ignoring the dates. Susan left, slamming the door. Emily was silent. The baby moved. The nurse looked in to check the bracelet and left without asking anything. Andrew sat on the edge of his chair and opened his email. He found emails with the subject line, Harbor Tech Arbitration Travel. The route was ORD PHX 0214, PHX DALS 0219, DALOS 224, OS ORDS 303. He remembered, in Phoenix, they had sat until midnight with the client's accountant in Dallas. There had been 2 days of witness interviews, and in Austin, the hearing had been postponed due to video link issues. The emails were marked by an assistant. Hotel confirmed, paid with a corporate card. It all added up. He typed a short message to Matt. Timelines are off by 4 weeks. Need advice on DNA tests and signatures in Illinois. He deleted it and didn't send it. He wanted to talk to Emily first without intermediaries. Look, he said more gently, I'm not going to make a scene. I want us to go through this honestly. Do you agree with the test? Emily didn't answer for a long time, then nodded. After discharge. But let's not talk to my mother. I'll tell her myself. Agreed. The administrator returned with a tablet. Let's check the minimum without signatures. Name, address, insurance. Go ahead, Andrew said. They filled in the technical fields. He stopped at the line father. We'll leave this column blank until we get more information, he said. The administrator nodded. Legally, you are a spouse, but we do not insist. You can add it later. Notify me when you check out. After she left, there was silence. Someone laughed behind the wall, and a child started crying in another room. Andrew went out into the corridor and walked around the department. At the post, he took the printout with the ed and the mark GA39+2. He took a photo on his phone and sent it to his work email with the note private. When he returned, he saw Emily holding the baby and looking at him the way one looks at something one can't let go of. He felt both tenderness and a cold knot of doubt. I'll ask the doctor to write the correct date and time on the discharge papers, he said. And I'll ask the insurance company how to get the test done without all the red tape. Do as you see fit, she said quietly. The pediatrician came in during the day and gave the parameters of the examination and screening. Andrew briefly clarified. The discharge will say, full term, right? Yes, the doctor confirmed. The full term. If necessary, we will indicate the ed on the ultrasound. After he left, Susan looked in again, but seeing the folder closed, said nothing. She left the bag with her things and left. By evening, Andrew asked the nurse to show him where on the ward they would give him copies of his family's medical records. They explained to him, request through the reception desk, issue upon discharge. He signed the request form, summary discharge plus ed data. Already at night, when it became dark in the ward, he opened the calendar again and added a note for March. From March 5th to 10 at home. Amy was sick and slept in different rooms. He remembered, she had a fever then, they hardly communicated. This is not proof, but it is another detail. He put the phone away and sat down next to the cradle. His decision for the night was simple. No signatures, no public talk, just fact-finding. In the morning, he'll call a family lawyer he knows and clarify the testing procedure without conflict with the hospital. He promised Emily one thing: no scenes. He'll keep it. Before going to bed, he leaned over to Emily. I will organize everything so that it takes a minimum of time, and so that no one interferes. Okay, she said. Just don't discuss it with Mom. Please. I promise. He turned off the table lamp. The discharge was issued on the second day. The nurse brought an envelope with recommendations. The bracelet was cut off Emily's hand. The baby was put in a car seat. The administrator looked in one last time. The data has been entered into the system. The father field is empty for now. If you want to add it later, come to the State Records Department or return to us with the form. You have time. Accepted, Andrew replied. They stood in silence in the elevator. A cold wind blew in the parking lot. He secured the cradle in the back seat, checked the belts, and turned on the heating. Emily fastened herself in the front, looked straight ahead, did not ask questions. The ride home took 20 minutes. At the entrance, he took the bags, went up to the floor, and opened the door first. The nursery was ready. The smell of new furniture had already disappeared. He put the cradle on the dresser, helped Emily change, and warmed up the soup. The baby soon woke up and demanded attention. Andrew acted precisely. He brought clean diapers, turned on the night light, and poured water. When things calmed down a bit, he said, I'll call a family law friend. I need advice on Illinois so I don't make mistakes. Emily nodded. Just no loud statements. I can't stand scandals. I'm not going to shout, he said calmly. He went into his office and dialed Charlie Morin, an experienced family lawyer he often crossed paths with at courthouses. Charlie picked up almost immediately. I'm listening, Andrew. We need a clear plan. Married couple, due date. I doubt paternity. The difference in terms is 4 weeks. I was on a business trip at that time. I did not sign a certificate or anything like VAP. What is important for me to do and what should I avoid? Charlie spoke dryly, without unnecessary words. In Illinois, the husband has a presumption of paternity by marriage. Even without a signature, he can be added to the certificate. It's good that he didn't sign a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity. It's for unmarried couples, and it's harder to refuse. Next, if you want to fix your position, file a petition in the district court to establish, or in your case, deny paternity and order a genetic test. The sooner, the better. The court usually orders a DNA test. While the process is ongoing, do not sign documents that confirm your paternity and do not apply for child support in your name. What are the deadlines for challenging? If there was a voluntary confession, there are 60 days to withdraw, then only through the court, with grounds such as fraud or coercion. You don't have a VAR, so straight to court. And remember, behave correctly, provide household support, but do not legally commit yourself until the test result. Got it. Can the test be done privately? Yes, but the court only accepts certified labs with a chain of custody. I'll send you a list. And one more thing. Don't discuss strategy with third parties except your lawyer. Fewer texts, no emotional letters. Everything is to the point. Thank you, Charlie. Hold on. If necessary, I'll connect a colleague who handles such cases every week. Andrew wrote down the main points, saved them in a separate file, and closed the laptop. Before returning to the living room, he paused for a moment at the door to the nursery. Inside, everything looked as planned. A crib, a basket of toys, books on the shelf. He felt obliged to keep life in a normal rhythm, even if a difficult process was going on at the same time. Emily was sitting on the sofa with a blanket on her lap and an empty cup on the table. What did the lawyer say? She asked evenly. What I expected. There is a presumption of marriage. I will file a petition for a DNA test. Until the results are in, I will not sign anything that makes me the legal father. I won't argue, she said quietly. Just talk to me directly. Not through my mother, not through friends. Let's do that. The doorbell interrupted the conversation. Susan walked in without fuss, but with the air of being in charge. In her hands was a bag of groceries and baby wipes. "I won't be long," she said, unpacking her groceries. "How are things at home? Silence is good for a child." She glanced around the room, then at Andrew. "Let's go into the kitchen and discuss matters." Emily closed her eyes tiredly. In the kitchen, Susan got straight to the point. "Go and add yourself to the certificate today. It will save you from confusion. Then you can find out the dates if that's what you need. The child needs a father in the documents." "The paperwork needs to be accurate," Andrew replied. "I don't sign until the test." "This mistrust will destroy the family," she said harshly. "It's not the question that destroys a family, but the reason for the question," he said calmly. "I do this without shouting or making scenes. I need confirmation." Susan took a step back and gathered her things into a bag. "Okay, I'll help with the groceries and leave, but remember, delay will hurt everyone." She left, leaving only a note with a list of medications for Emily. In the evening, friends Claire and Paul stopped by. They brought a basket of fruit and silently hugged Emily. Andrew led Paul out onto the balcony, closing the glass door behind him. "I need feedback," Andrew said. "What does this look like from the outside?" Paul was slow to respond. "It looks like a grown-up problem. You didn't create it, but you have to solve it. You're a lawyer. Follow the law. Just be careful not to turn your home into an office. Emily is having a hard time right now." "I try to keep the temperature even," Andrew said. "Here you go," Paul nodded, "and take the day off. We'll cover it on Monday." After they left, the house was quiet again. Emily put the baby in his crib and lay down with her phone in her hands. Andrew laid out blank sheets of paper on the table and gathered up a packet of documents: copies of the business trip itineraries, a printout from the hospital board, an extract from Ed 1130, and a note from the spring with Ed 1227. He enclosed Charlie's business card and a draft of the application with the wording, "Petition for genetic testing and declaration of non-parentage." "I'll go to court in the morning," he said, keeping his voice down. "I'll file a petition and come back. I'm here for you anyway. Food, medicine, night shifts, I'll take care of everything." "I can handle it," she replied, "but thank you." He got up several times during the night. He brought water, warmed a compress for his back, changed the nightlight bulb to a less bright one. It was important for him to show by deed that everyday concerns did not depend on a legal dispute. In the morning, he put on a dark suit without a tie, left Emily a call schedule on a piece of paper, and went down to the garage. On the way, he called the lab from Charlie's list. The receptionist answered quickly. "The test requires a document, a court order, or the mother's consent. Samples can be collected at your home. A nurse will come out tomorrow or Wednesday. Results within 5 working days after delivery." "An appointment tomorrow morning would be fine," Andrew said, "but I'll probably bring a court order." At the courthouse, he passed through the frame, took a number in the reception area, and sat down by the wall. Before his eyes was a to-do list for the day, no different from any other Monday. When his turn came, he handed in his papers. The secretary checked that they were complete. Copies of the applications are available, and a receipt for the paid fee is available. We will notify you of the hearing date by mail and via the electronic system. "Do you need a temporary order before the test?" Andrew asked. "If you want, file a separate petition. But the court usually does not impose temporary obligations before the recognition of paternity. Your situation is clear." On the way home, he bought bread, some medical plasters, and a bottle of milk. At home, there was a note from Emily on the table. "Nurse called from the lab. Confirm time. The baby is sleeping. I'm in the shower." He took off his coat, put the milk in the refrigerator, and wrote a letter to the lab confirming the next day's visit. Charlie called at lunchtime. "I saw your case in the system. The judge is adequate, without playing to the public. If necessary, I will join in at the hearing. So far, everything is according to plan. Thank you. The lab technician is coming out tomorrow. I'll bring the referral as soon as the court issues it. Excellent. Keep up the pace. In the evening, Andrew's sister Lisa came. She brought lasagna and containers of soup. I'm not talking about who's right, she said in the kitchen. I'm talking about you not closing yourself off. If you need to, I'll sit for a couple of hours. You can go to the gym or just take a walk. Thank you. I think I'll accept your offer on Wednesday. They had dinner. Emily joined him for a while, thanked him for the food, and went to the bedroom. Lisa looked at her brother. Do you talk to each other? We try. We keep an even tone. I don't ask unnecessary questions before the test. Okay? And one more thing. Don't collect evidence as if you were preparing a criminal case. There's a different logic here. I understand, he said, but I know how to keep documents in order, and that calms me down. Late in the evening, the house fell silent. Andrew took out the trash, set the alarm for early morning, and sat in the dark by the window. The calendar on his phone showed the past year: spring business trip, summer renovations, autumn waiting. He caught himself thinking that now he had to double-check every date, not out of mistrust of his memory, but because these numbers are the basis for a decision for which you will then have to answer for the rest of your life. He returned to the bedroom. Emily was asleep. The baby was crying again. Andrew got up, poured warm water, calmed him down, and put him to bed. He understood that tomorrow would be the formal part: signatures, seals, samples. But in this room there was another planned silence, night steps, simple departure. Both plans had to be carried out in parallel, without distortions. Before going to bed, he wrote a short message to Charlie: package delivered, lab tomorrow, keeping my distance on paperwork, helping around the house. The reply came a minute later, exactly how it should be. The nurse from the lab arrived in the morning, as agreed. Young, in a uniform with a logo, neat speech. She showed her ID, made copies of our rights, and filled out the chain of custody forms. On the table were envelopes with barcodes, cotton swabs, disposable gloves. First the child, then the mother, then the alleged father, she said. Sign the labels immediately after collection. I'll seal the samples in front of you. Emily held the baby, trying to breathe evenly. The procedure took less than 20 minutes. The brushes squeaked on the mucous membrane, the nurse placed them in capsules, sealed the envelopes, ran her finger along the lines of the adhesive tape. The results will be available in 5 working days, she said. We'll send you one copy and the second one via court order. If the court requests it directly from the lab, we'll indicate the case number. Please specify, Andrew said, dictating the number from the court receipt. When the door closed, the apartment became quiet. Emily put the baby in the crib and sat on the edge of the sofa. It all happened too fast, she said, not looking at Andrew. Fast is good, he replied. We're moving along a clear pattern. She nodded. The tension in the room hadn't disappeared, but it had become manageable. Andrew changed into casual clothes and took his briefcase. I'll drop by the office for a couple of hours and write down the deadlines. If anything, call me. Okay, she said. I'll be home. At the firm, he was met by an assistant with a stack of incoming messages. The partner, Jerome, looked into the office without asking any unnecessary questions. How are you at home? The regime works in small steps, Andrew answered. I need a week with a flexible schedule. I will conduct the main hearings, but I want to reschedule the meetings. We will, Jerome nodded. And keep in mind that clients have already heard you speak about transparency. That will come in handy here. They discussed the 2 cases, set priorities. Andrew signed a couple of letters, rescheduled a meeting, opened his calendar, and added a reminder: wait for lab report. He left for the north side by lunchtime. He had to take the insurance papers he had mistakenly left at home to the clinic. He called Emily. I'll bring the documents to the reception and go back. Okay, she answered briefly. There was a small cafe next to the clinic. He decided to stop in for a takeaway coffee. There were 2 employees standing in line wearing badges with the clinic's logo. Andrew heard a familiar name. Mark, are you going to the meeting with the research department? In 10 minutes, answered the man in the gray sweater. The name cut him. Andrew turned around. Tall, about 40, short hair. His face was calm, but his eyes were darting. When Mark stepped forward, his badge read, Mark Ellison, Outreach. Andrew approached calmly. Mark Ellison. Yes, the man looked up. Have we met? Andrew Miller, Emily's husband. The pause was short but noticeable. Mark pulled himself together. Nice, to finally meet you. You work together, Andrew stated. Yes, the departments overlap, Mark said. Emily is a great specialist. The barista called Mark by name. He took the glass but did not leave. I have a couple of questions, Andrew said evenly. I'll touch on the schedule. Emily had a few unscheduled appearances in late February and early March last year. You might remember that. Mark took a sip and was silent for a moment. It was a busy period. We were closing a project with donors. People were delayed. This is a normal story for the end of the quarter. I understand, Andrew said. If anything happens, the lawyer can formally request the schedules. For now, I'm asking like a human being. Mark looked down. I don't keep other people's calendars. Sorry. No problem, Andrew nodded. Good luck at the meeting. He turned to the counter and got his coffee. Mark had left earlier. Andrew saw him through the window, typing a quick message on his phone as he walked toward the next building. At the clinic reception, Andrew handed over the insurance, asked to put a mark on the appointment, and received a copy. He did not start any conversations in the corridors, not his territory. At home, Emily sat on the floor of the nursery, sorting things into boxes. Next to her was a list: diapers, wipes, cream. She looked up. Did you stop by the clinic? Yes, saw Mark, accidentally. She looked down at the box. And what? Nothing. We exchanged a few words. I didn't make a scene. Thank you, she said quietly. I'm not ready to talk right now. We'll talk when the results come in, he said, and not through third parties, just between us. She nodded. In the afternoon, the court secretary called. A preliminary hearing was scheduled for 9 days later in the morning. Got the notice, Andrew told Emily. I'll go alone. They haven't called you yet. Fine. Lisa came in the afternoon. She helped with dinner, held the baby, gave Emily the opportunity to take a shower and sit quietly in the bedroom for half an hour. You're holding up, Lisa told her brother in the kitchen while stirring the sauce. And it shows. I'm just following the instructions, he replied. Sometimes instructions are your best friend, she said, placing the plates on the table. That evening, Andrew sat down at his desk and sorted through his incoming mail. Among the letters was a notification from the lab. Samples accepted. Status in progress. He sent Charlie the case number and attached a scan of the referral so that everything would proceed without delay. As night approached, Emily came out of the bedroom. Can I ask you a question? She said. Certainly. Do you want me to go to my mother's for a few days? I want the child to be with you where it's most convenient for you, he replied. I'm not throwing you out of the house. If you feel more at ease here, stay. If things are easier with Mom, I'll take you there and come every day. I'll stay. It's quieter here, she said, and there's less commentary. Then tomorrow, I'll remove some of the work files from the living room. I'll make space for the stroller. She nodded gratefully. At night, the child woke up often again. Andrew took on the little household chores, bringing water, changing a lamp, airing the room. He did it without unnecessary words. There was no emptiness inside him. There was a work discipline, unusual at home, but now necessary. Susan came in the morning, but didn't stay long. She left soup, napkins, and an envelope. There are gift cards from the clinic here, she said. You can pay for some of the services, and... She hesitated. Please don't swear in front of the child. We don't argue, Andrew replied. We decide. When the door closed, he opened the envelope. Inside, along with the cards, was a receipt from a cafe for March. Zo 3 2 lattes, croissants. On the back was a scribble, 10:30, conference room C. It wasn't Emily's handwriting. He put the receipt back. The objects themselves weren't proof, only the system data was important. But he took a photo of the receipt and filed it in his possible evidence folder. Before lunch, Jerome called. A reporter from a local business publication is interested in your Harbor Tech case. Are you prepared to comment? Now is not the time, Andrew replied. Take a break. Personal circumstances. Accepted. After the call, he went for a short walk around the block. The snow was a smooth crust, the asphalt crunched under his shoes. He wasn't thinking about philosophy. He was repeating dates in his head. Flights, ultrasound, ed, filing a petition, lab visit. The items lined up, and it helped him stay on track. During the day, he called the clinic's HR department not directly, but through an official request from a lawyer, as he had promised. The wording was neat. Request through the court the work schedules of employee Emily Miller and employee Mark Ellison for the period February-March of last year. The documents were sent in Charlie's name. He ruled out personal phone conversations, no impulsive steps. In the evening, Emily said, I'm going to the clinic for an hour tomorrow. I need to sign a couple of official papers. Will you stay with the child? I'll stay, he replied. Just let's clarify. Are you alone? Yes. Fine. The next day, she left early. The baby slept on Andrew's chest while he quietly read the case files and took notes. Emily returned at noon, tired but calm. Is everything okay? He asked. Yes. I went to the HR department. They know about your request. I said it was a formality. Thanks for the warning, he said. On the third day after the samples were taken, the lab sent a short update. Test running, estimated 2 business days until report. Andrew didn't speculate. He set a reminder for Friday morning and turned his attention to dinner. Late in the evening, the phone rang. The number was unfamiliar. This is Mark Ellison, the voice said. Can we talk? I'm listening, Andrew said, moving into the office and closing the door. I don't know what exactly you're looking for, but I want to say one thing. The pressure in the department is high right now. If they start pulling out someone's personal schedules and correspondence, it will be worse for everyone. Everything can be resolved more quietly. Quiet, what do you mean? Andrew asked. Do not bring it to public inquiries. Find an agreement. I don't bargain. I found out the facts, Andrew replied. Everything else comes after the test results. Got it, Mark said and hung up. Andrew put the phone down on the table and sat back down at the laptop. He noted in his journal, Mark called, asking for quiet. Do not answer. He heard footsteps outside the door. Emily went to the bathroom. He closed the note and turned off the light. On the 4th day, a letter from the court arrived in the morning. The preliminary hearing was confirmed. The judge asked for the status of the test. Andrew responded via the system. We are waiting for a report from an accredited lab, approximately by the end of the week. He attached a confirmation of chain of custody to the letter. That evening, the 3 of them were sitting in the living room, the baby in the stroller, Emily with a cup of tea, Andrew with a notebook. She was the first to break the silence. Whenever the results come in, I want to speak without shouting, whatever it is. Me too, he said, and I'm ready to discuss the next step in any case. But the order will be this. First the fact, then the decisions. She nodded. An ambulance drove past the window, honked its horn, and disappeared around the corner. Once again, all that could be heard in the house was the ventilation and the quiet breathing of the child. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for early morning. The courtroom smelled of detergent and coffee from a vending machine. Andrew arrived 15 minutes early, checked in with the clerk, and sat on the edge of the bench. He looked at the printout of case numbers, but his mind was racing. Lab status, what the judge would ask, how to talk to Emily after. The door to the courtroom opened slightly, and the court administrator came out. Miller versus Miller. What are the parties here? Here, Andrew stood up. To his left stood a woman in a formal gray suit. Patel. I represent Emily Miller." Emily arrived, calm, no makeup, in a dark sweater. With her was Patel and, at a distance, Susan. Andrew nodded. Emily responded with an almost imperceptible nod. The judge entered without pathos, reminded us of etiquette, and quickly got down to business. "We have a petition to determine paternity with a request to appoint a genetic examination. What is the status of the test?" Andrew answered clearly. "The samples have been submitted. The laboratory has been accredited. The chain of custody documents have been sent. We expect a report in the next 2 days," Patel explained. "The mother's side does not object to the test. We ask that the materials be kept confidential and that no discussion be made in the public domain." "That's how it will be," said the judge. "Until we receive the results, we refrain from making statements that could affect the child. I do not assign time commitments. We do not raise the issue of finances to the status of an examination. The next control is in 2 weeks. That's all." The gavel was not needed. The matron announced a break. In the hallway, Patel approached Andrew. "When the results come, send me a copy. I will submit it to the court at the same time as you." "I'll pass it on," he replied. Emily stood next to her mother. Susan took a step forward. "Can I have a minute?" "Better later," Andrew said. "There's nothing to add to what's been said now." Emily said quietly, "I'll write to you. Let's do it today without any clarifications." "Agreed," he replied and went down the stairs to the first floor. At the courthouse door, he bought a glass of black coffee, went outside, and stood in the fragile January sun. His phone vibrated. An email arrived with a nondescript subject, "Report available." He immediately realized it was from the lab. Authorization through the portal took a minute and another 2 to open the PDF. There was no emotion in the report. The results section: exclusion of biological relationship from the alleged father, probability of paternities on 0.7%. Below was a table with loci. Andrew watched to the end, closed the file, and just held the phone in his hand for a few seconds. No triumphant thoughts. There was a fact that made him feel empty. He called Charlie. "Document in hand. Exception. Send it to me and the court system. I'll draft a decree declaring the absence of paternity and releasing you from your duties. We'll also file a motion to keep your name out of any state records until the final order. Then there's the separate issue of possibly misleading the court. But that's later. Now, the process." "Got it," Andrew said. "I'll send it in 5 minutes." He forwarded the file to Charlie, uploaded a copy to the court's electronic system, and sent Patel a terse email. "Result attached. Submitted to court." The portal confirmed receipt. On the way home, he stopped at the dry cleaning shop near the station. He picked up his jacket, paid by card, and as he was leaving, he realized that he wanted to go not to the north side, but to a place where he could be alone for a while. An ad for an apartment hotel in River North popped into his head: corporate apartments for a month or 2, no questions asked. He called. "Do you have a studio for 2 or 3 weeks?" "Yes, check-in is today," the administrator answered. "Parking is underground. Keys are at the counter. You need a copy of your driver's license and a card." "I'll be there in an hour," he said. At home, Emily was feeding the baby. The room was dimly lit. "The results are in," he said. "The lab has ruled out paternity." She bowed her head as if trying to protect herself from a blow that was inevitable anyway. "I heard. Patel sent me a letter," she said quietly. "I'm not ready to discuss the details now. I know there's going to be a trial now." "The trial is inevitable," he said calmly. "I'll take some of my things and find temporary housing. This is not a demonstration. I need a space where I won't keep you under constant surveillance, and it will be easier for you." She nodded without arguing. "Tell me when it's convenient for you to pack your bag," Emily said without looking at him. "Right now," he replied. He went into the bedroom and opened the closet. He took 2 suits, jeans, a couple of shirts, underwear, chargers, a laptop, a folder with copies of documents. A second's pause at the chest of drawers where the photo albums were. He did not touch them. Lisa arrived 20 minutes later. He had asked her in advance to be on hand. Need help with the boxes? She asked at the door. Just a bag and a garment bag, he replied. I'll be right back. Emily appeared in the hallway holding the baby. Lisa looked at her warmly. If you need anything, right? I'm nearby. Thank you, Emily said. No reproaches, no attempts to stop. Silence in which you can only hear the clicking of the door closer. The aparthotel was functional. A clean kitchen, a narrow table, a window overlooking the river, and a subway line. Andrew hung up 2 shirts, hid his bag in the closet, and checked that the connection was stable. He put only a notepad and a pen on the table. He sat down and wrote 3 short bullet points. 1, complain about the ruling. 2, discuss fraud strategy with Charlie. 3, therapist today at 7 p.m. He arranged for a therapist in the morning through the corporate assistance program. At 7 in the evening, the laptop screen lit up. A woman of about 45 connected, neutral background, confident voice. My name is Dr. Nguyen. Tell me what you would like to get from the consultation. I need a clear plan on how to survive the next few weeks without ruining my job and my psyche, Andrew said without preamble. The DNA test results show I'm not the father. There's a trial coming up. There's a child I've grown attached to on a day-to-day level. There's a wife I'll probably be separated from. And there's my job, where they're counting on me. What's the hardest thing right now? She asked. With pauses. When I do nothing, the noise in my head begins, he answered. I can work from a list, and when I sit alone, everything comes at once. So, for the immediate future, structure, said Dr. Nguyen. Daily routine, sleep, food, movement, work, short blocks of administrative actions on the case, short social contacts. No abrupt decisions in the first 2 or 3 weeks, unless they are procedural. A journal of simple observations, no analysis, just facts. What did you do? What did you feel? What helped? Breathing is not meditation, but pure physiology. Inhale to the count of 4, exhale to the count of 6, 5 minutes 3 times a day. And also, eliminate self-punishment. You are reacting to facts. This is a healthy reaction. What about the conversation with Emily? He asked. Do I need an exact confession, or does that not matter anymore? Legally, the test result is enough for you, she answered. Psychologically, perhaps something else is more important, the formulation of boundaries. Example, I do not discuss the past in the format of shifting blame. I am ready to discuss logistics and documents. Emotional conversations after the court decision in the presence of a specialist, if necessary. This is not cruelty, this is protection. Accepted, he said. And one more thing. I'm going to be polite around the baby, but I'm afraid any touch will hurt. That's okay, she said. Name it and limit interactions to what you can handle. Simple actions like taking out the trash, getting groceries, getting medications can stay. Anything that causes emotional breakdown, turn it off for now. You don't owe anyone heroics. The session lasted 45 minutes. At the end, she sent a summary of the plan. Andrew printed it out at the reception desk and placed it under the glass table. He called Charlie. Dr. Nguyen says I shouldn't rush things unless it's a process. What's our process? The judge has already received the report. I have submitted a draft order to recognize the absence of paternity, to exclude your name from the records, to confirm that you have no obligations. He will most likely schedule a hearing on this issue for next week. We separately reserve the right to declare misrepresentation. Here we will need correspondence and what the hospital recorded in terms of time. But this block is not urgent. The first thing is to be legally released. Great, Andrew said. I'm in touch. He closed his laptop and allowed himself to turn off the light for the first time that day. Outside, the Elka hummed on the bridge, and the splash of water against the piles could be heard from below. He set his alarm for 6 so he could go for a run before the workday began, not out of love for the sport, but because his therapist advised it. Before going to bed, Emily sent a short text. Got a copy of the report. I'm at Mom's for a couple of hours tomorrow. I'll leave the key in an envelope with the concierge if I need to pick up anything. He replied, I'll pick up some papers this afternoon. Thanks. We met at the district library conference room in Lawrence. Neutral place, glass wall, round table. Emily put the keys and passes on the table. This is access to your garage and storage room. Take it. Thank you, Andrew replied. Here's a list of what I'll take from home. Tools, some dishes, a laptop, a few books. Utilities I'll pay half for the current month, then separately. I agree. According to the child's insurance, my plan covers it. But at the hospital counter, they listed you as the contact person. I'll send the insurer a notice that I'm not the parent. If they send the bill to me, I'll forward it to your policy, he said. After the court order, any statements on my behalf are inadmissible. She nodded. I propose an order, Andrew continued. On Thursday, the court considered a draft order on the absence of paternity. After that, we file for divorce on the basis of irreconcilable differences, divide the property through a mediator without public statements. I agree, Emily replied. And one more thing. We need specifics about the past. When did your relationship with Mark begin? The end of February. The donor project, late shifts, correspondence, 1 or 2 meetings after work. I stopped when I realized I was pregnant. I told my mom that the due date was closer to December. When the doctor adjusted the date to the end of November, I didn't bring up the subject. The plan was to quietly register the documents in your name. It was a mistake. Was there pressure on the hospital? No, I said early, but the doctor showed 39 weeks and everything became clear. Accepted, he said. During the process, contacts only in neutral places. Help with logistics is possible, but without my participation in caring for the child. I do not communicate with Mark. Questions from your family through lawyers. Understood. The conversation lasted 40 minutes. On the way out, they exchanged short, I'll let you know via mediator exchanges. Next came the paperwork. Andrew filed a request with the medical records department and received a package by evening. Copies of the ultrasound at 11/30 marked full term. He immediately sent the scans to his lawyer, Charlie. In the office, he briefly informed his partners. Personal situation in court, I keep to deadlines for clients. The monthly schedule is flexible. I do not comment on press inquiries. Carol noted. Get an assistant for 2 weeks and use corporate psychological support. Already, he replied. An envelope with no return address was waiting for him at the reception of the Aparthotel. We can agree without going to court. Call M, local number. Andrew forwarded a photo of Charlie's letter with the note, no response, and saved the original. Susan called the next day. Come in for an hour. Emily is with me. At home, Susan said without pressure. I pushed my daughter into silence. Mistake. What do you want from me? Don't interfere and don't offer agreements. Let all questions go through lawyers, and don't argue with Emily about my boundaries. Another request. No attempts to bring the story into the public sphere. Silence on my part, Susan nodded, for the sake of the child. With me too, Andrew said. Emily thanked her for the visit. Andrew dropped off the groceries and left. At the same time, he closed practical issues. He had 2 letters certified by a notary, a refusal of any applications for insurance payments for the child, and a notification to the clinic about the change of contact person. He sent them by mail and electronically. Charlie called in the evening. The judge looked at the package. Thursday, 9:30, I'm here. He'll probably sign the order without much speech. Take with you the lab report, the extract with Ed 11/30 and the mark, full term, copies of the notifications to the insurance company and the clinic. I'll collect everything, Andrew answered. Andrew prepared a short draft of the distribution for the mediator. The house went to Emily. The car went to him with payments. The joint account was to be closed. The furniture was to be divided by room. The gift cards were to be split in half. He sent it to Emily with the note, for discussion, not final. She replied, okay. At the firm, Jerome warned, Journalists asked again. We do not give comments. Personal topic off the agenda. Accepted. Andrew planned the day before the hearing without emotion, checked the folder, printed backup copies, put away the ID and the receipt of filing. There were 2 marks on the calendar, court 9:30 and mediator call to set the date. A short summary of the agreements so far. Contacts only in neutral places. Finances separate from the current month. My policy notified. The child without my participation until the court's decision. No signature in the father column. The documents are in full form in court. The clinic and the insurer have official letters. Communication with third parties, including Mark through lawyers, or not at all. On Thursday morning, Andrew took a folder and a garment bag, called a taxi, and went to court. The task was clear, to confirm with facts what was already recorded in the materials. After the hearing, he went straight to the mediator to schedule the first meeting. The hallway of the county courthouse was cool, the floor gleaming from cleaning. Andrew arrived a little early, as usual, to check the folder, go through the list. Inside were a lab report, a hospital discharge summary with an ed of 11:30 and a note for full term, a draft order, copies of notifications to insurance and the hospital receipts. His phone was on silent. On the screen was a reminder, after court mediator. The hostess opened the door. The Miller case, please. In the courtroom, the judge nodded briefly. Patel sat on the left, Emily next to her. This time without her mother. Mark did not appear in the courtroom. The judge leafed through the materials and took off his glasses. So, I have before me a petition to recognize the absence of paternity and to correct the civil status records. The file contains a report from an accredited laboratory. The probability of paternity is 0%. There are medical records of a full-term pregnancy. Does the mother's side object? Patel stood up. No, Your Honor. We request that the materials be kept confidential and that the order be sent directly to the State Records Department. We will do so, said the judge. Mr. Miller, do you have anything to add? No, Your Honor. I ask that you approve the draft order. The judge signed and handed the document to the steward. The order is granted. The court finds that Andrew Miller is not the biological father of the child born to Emily Miller. The Illinois Department of Health is directed to amend the birth record. Andrew Miller is not obligated to pay any support, medical expenses, or other fees. Confidentiality as requested. The next divorce hearing will be scheduled through the clerk's office. That's all. He didn't use the gavel again. The secretary wrote down the number and date. Andrew received 2 certified copies. The paper was heavy, the stamp was fresh, the ink still slightly shiny. In the hallway, Emily approached first. I received an electronic copy. Okay, he said. Next, to the mediator. I've written to you the options for the property. I saw it. I agreed to start with them, she spoke quietly, without trying to justify herself. When would it be convenient to appoint? We'll discuss slots for next week with the mediator's office today, Andrew said. They'll write to you. Patel added, please conduct all correspondence through us. It will be easier to avoid misunderstandings. I agree, he nodded. They parted without a scene. Down the stairs, cold air at the entrance, step by step to the car. He got behind the wheel and allowed himself to sit still for 10 seconds. Not joy, not anger, the feeling that one knot had been officially untied. The first stop was the mediator's office, a small room in River North, with diplomas on the walls and a schedule on the glass. The receptionist entered the information, asked about time preferences. Tuesday morning, Andrew said. 2.5 hours, non-stop. Separate rooms, if possible. Possibly. The rules are simple. Everything is confidential. The conversation is conducted through a neutral intermediary. No recordings on a dictaphone. The administrator handed over a memo. We will send confirmation to all parties. He left with a clear slot in his calendar. Next stop, Charlie's office. The lawyer met him at the elevator, took copies of the order, checked the seals. Good wording, Charlie said. The judge closed it all clean. Now keep up the rhythm. Mediation, filing for divorce, notification to all the agencies. I'll prepare template letters to the state records department, the insurance company, and the hospital, so your name doesn't come up anywhere. I agree, Andrew said. I'll take a copy of the order to the county clerk's office and IF today. Do it, Charlie nodded, and ignore any peace proposals from third parties. Everything is on paper through lawyers. For lunch, he stopped at a small diner on the corner of Lazal and Kinsey. He grabbed a cheeseburger and water and sat by the window. His phone vibrated, unknown number. This is the Chicago Tribune. We are writing a story about the legal risks of errors in birth certificates. We would like a general comment. No comment, Andrew said calmly. Contact the company's press service. Without mentioning the name? No comment, he repeated and hung up. He immediately forwarded the number to the communications team. Unsubscribed. Be prepared. After lunch, the county clerk's office. He handed over a certified copy of the order, filled out a short form, and was marked Received. The clerk clarified. The birth record will have a blank father column until other grounds are received. The change will take effect within 30 days. That's enough, he said and took the receipt. Next up, the post office. Certified mail to the state records department and the hospital. He took a photo of the tracking number and saved it in his Done folder. 2 meetings awaited him at the firm's office. First, a short status with Jerome. Do you have orders? Asked the partner. Yes, Andrew indicated. The legal part of paternity is closed. I'm moving on to the mediator. Keep up the pace, Jerome said. Now let's move tomorrow's client to Friday. You need an evening without letters. I'll take it, Andrew said. I want to wrap up some administrative details this evening. The second meeting was with Carol. The senior partner invited me to the next conference room, where it was always quiet. I'll say one thing, she said. You did everything right. Facts, documents, no media. The main threat now is not the trial, but burnout. Divide your days into blocks. Work, procedures, nothing. The nothing block is a must at least 40 minutes a day. Accepted, he replied. She smiled faintly. And one more thing. People will ask with good intentions. Come up with one phrase for everyone. For example, the legal part is solved, the rest is in working with the mediator. Thank you for your support. Repeat it, and the conversations will be shorter. That's what I'll do. By evening, a letter from the mediator arrived with confirmation. Tuesday, 10 o'clock, separate rooms, list of documents, bank statements, list of property, proposals from the parties. Andrew forwarded the letter to Patel, attached his draft of the division, and added, ready to discuss without emotion. The goal is a 1-page agreement. He drove home, that is, to the aparthotel with a bag of food. He put the containers in the fridge, put the kettle on, and opened his laptop. In the mail, a notice from the hospital. We received a court order. The contact person for the child has been changed to the mother. The father field is empty. Brief, official, calm. The phone rang. Lisa. How did it go? The court has signed the order, he said. The papers have already gone where they need to go. Okay, said the sister. I can take you for a walk on Saturday. Just a walk by the lake. Okay, he replied. At 10. He hung up and opened the notes for the mediator. He divided the property into groups. For work, for home, personal. In each group, he wrote down specifics. The laptop is mine. The washing machine is Emily's. The table is hers. The car is mine. I'll take the rest of the payments. At the bottom was a simple principle. No claims, no penalties. The transfer period is 2 weeks. At 9 o'clock in the evening, a message came from an unknown person. I'm sorry. The number matched the one on the Note M. Andrew didn't answer. He took a screenshot, forwarded it to Charlie, saving. No contact. The answer came a minute later. Correct. He turned off the sound on his phone, took the order out of the folder, and ran his eyes over the wording once more. Legally, everything was clear. No buts. No ambiguities. He put one copy in the aparthotel safe, the second in his work briefcase. Before going to bed, he wrote Emily a short letter through her lawyer, confirming Tuesday with the mediator, enclosed draft of division, willing to discuss arrangements for access to the house to move my things Saturday at 11 o'clock, suggesting your mother or my sister as witnesses. No arguments, just logistics. Patel responded half an hour later, agreed. Susan will be home. Key at concierge. The night passed quietly. In the morning, Andrew woke up without an alarm clock, looked out the window, a thin layer of ice on the river, rare runners on the track. He put on the coffee, opened the notebook, and wrote down 3 lines. 1, the legal fact is secured. 2, ahead, a mediator and division. 3, in everyday life, a smooth rhythm, without unnecessary conversations. He didn't go into the feelings on paper. That was done with other tools, talking to a therapist, walking, silence. There was only a plan. At the office, he took up the Harbortech case, checked the edits, supplemented the arguments on jurisdiction, sent a letter to the client with questions for the next day's meeting. Work returned to its usual scale, deadlines, documents, logic. It was good to realize that part of life was still predictable. That afternoon, a notice came from the State Records Department. Court order accepted. Andrew forwarded the email to Charlie, then closed his laptop for an hour and went outside. It was snowing lightly. He walked 2 blocks, not thinking about anything, just walking. When he returned, he collected copies of the order and a list for the Saturday visit to the house in his briefcase. Attached to the list was a set of labels to stick on the boxes and save time on guesswork. A simple order that reduces friction. In the evening, he called the mediator again to clarify whether it was possible to bring a drawing of the apartment to discuss the furniture. Of course, bring it, the administrator replied. The more specific, the faster. He printed out the plan, marked with a marker what was staying and what was going. Thus, a new reality of the house arose on paper without him, but without chaos. Before going to bed, he looked at the calendar for the coming week once more. Tuesday pick, Saturday moving things, Sunday walk by the lake with Lisa. Between these points work and short windows without work. That evening, he allowed himself the luxury of doing nothing for an hour. He sat by the window and looked out at the lights of the embankment. No summaries, no conclusions. Just a quiet stretch of time that belonged only to him. He found himself thinking that, for the first time in weeks, he didn't have to check dates or compare schedules. At least not today. The first 2 weeks after the order passed in a strict regime. Andrew kept a schedule, like at work. Wake up, run, shower, breakfast, office or meetings, in the evening silence without a screen. He deliberately removed from the apartment everything that reminded him of the last months. The box with the children's things went to Emily on Saturday. Only books and a folder with business documents remained on the shelf. The morning began on the path along the lake. The frost stung the face, the wind from the water was sharp, but the pace was maintained. Near the pier, the neighbor from the aparthotel, Tom, walked the retriever. "How are you?" Tom asked, adjusting the leash. "Working mode," Andrew replied. "No news." "If you ever want to have a coffee without talking, I'm here," Tom said, and walked towards the stairs on the embankment. At the office, Andrew put client letters aside for an hour and started catching up on personal matters. He unsubscribed from mailings from stores for newborns, deleted reminders about parental leave, and set up a filter for email addresses that were sending unnecessary questions. Then he called the bank. "We closed the joint account. We divide the remainder equally. The statements go to the lawyers." The employee confirmed the transactions. Andrew wrote down the time and the case number. These simple lines gave back control. In the afternoon, there was a face-to-face meeting with Dr. Nguyen. The office is bare, just a table, 2 chairs, and a glass jug of water. "What's improved?" she asked. "I fall asleep faster at night. There are fewer lapses during the day," he answered. "The list of micro tasks helps, but there are empty spaces. For example, Half an hour after a run, I want to open old correspondence. I don't open it, but I want to. Add a short activity to that window, she said. 5 minutes of stretching, 10 minutes of neutral music, 15 minutes of throwing out laundry. And one more thing. Lower your emotional expectations. You don't have to feel normal right away. The goal is functionality and basic calm. Accepted, he nodded. And one more question. Some friends wrote to me with an offer to have a heart-to-heart talk. I don't want to. How can I refuse without explanation? Phrase, thank you for your concern. I'm not ready to discuss it now. I'll let you know when I can. Repeat verbatim. People will understand the boundaries. On the way out, he marked a new habit on his calendar, 15 minutes of stretching after a run. He did it for the first time that evening without trying to do it perfectly. On Saturday, Lisa took him to Evanston for brunch. The diner on the corner was full of families with children. They chose a table by the window. What's the plan for the week? Lisa asked. On Tuesday, mediation, he said. I want to close the division of property in 1 or 2 sessions. The rest of the time, work. The day off, a walk by the lake. I'm sticking to the plan. Okay? And don't give up sports, she said. Movement helps the brain not get stuck. I'm doing it, he nodded. At the next table, a man was telling a child how to fly a paper airplane. Andrew caught Lisa's eye. It's all right, he said. It's just someone else's family. I have my own route. On Sunday, Andrew went to the Rogers Park Community Center, where there was a free legal clinic for tenants. He had booked in through a colleague at the Bar Association. Is this your first time? The administrator gave him a volunteer badge. Yes, Andrew said. The first to arrive was an elderly woman with a folder of receipts. The landlord raised the rent without notice, she said, and removed the heating in the entryway. Andrew looked at the contract, found the clause about the notice period, and checked the city code. You have grounds to demand a refund of part of the fee and a written notice, he said. I'll write a template letter. You'll take it to the management company's office. If they ignore it, we'll point out the fines. The woman left grateful. A student who had been arguing with his landlord about mold came after her. Then a family whose roof was leaking. 4 hours passed quickly. It had nothing to do with his personal story, but it felt useful. After the center, he stopped by the gym. Not the track, but the gym with a punching bag and a rope. The trainer showed the correct stance, gave a simple combination. 10 minutes of work on a timer relieved the remaining internal tension better than long thoughts. Monday morning, a short conversation with Jerome. When will you be ready to return to your previous workload? Asked the partner. In a couple of weeks, Andrew replied. Until then, I'll hold the main line on key matters and redistribute the rest. Accepted, Jerome said. The Harbor Tech client is pleased with your memos. Keep up the good work. After lunch, a call from the mediator. The administrator sent the rules in advance. Now she clarified the details. Separate rooms confirmed. You can exchange offers through me. If you want, prepare a list of minimum/desirable/not essential. Andrew made a list in the evening. Minimum: a car, a laptop, some tools, personal documents, a few paintings. Desirable: 3 chairs from the kitchen, a coffee maker, and a work chair. Not essential: carpets, decorative pillows, some dishes. At the bottom, he added the item. No penalties for past purchases. Everyone takes their own debts on cards. Sent to the administrator and Patel. He also decided to tidy up his digital life. He created a separate folder called Archive Family, moved letters and photos from recent years there, set a password and 2-factor authentication. In his notes, he wrote to himself, "Do not open without a task." This makes it easier to separate emotions from the process. Tuesday morning, a session with a mediator. Separate rooms, water on the table, notepads. The mediator, a man of about 50, began with short instructions. We're here to negotiate. You don't have to explain the reasons for the divorce. Just logistics. Speak through me. Let's start with Andrew's list. Emily and her lawyer sat behind glass in the next room. The mediator went there, returned with answers. 2 hours were spent on furniture, equipment, and a car. In the end, they made a one-page sheet with specific deadlines. Moving things Saturday, 11 o'clock. Utility bill close by the end of the month. Handing over the keys to the storage room in front of a witness. We still have to discuss the tax return, the mediator said. Since you were married for more than 6 months, there are options for filing. I will suggest a neutral accountant. I agree, Andrew replied. And me, the mediator conveyed Emily's words. He didn't feel any relief when he left the office. He simply noted that the task had moved forward. He took some soup in the cafeteria on the first floor, ate it silently, looked at the schedule for the week, and went to the company. On the way, he called Lisa. Everything is going according to plan on Saturday. I need your help for an hour. I will, she said. Wednesday was spent at work. He prepared a position on a dispute over jurisdiction, checked the facts against the client's accounting reports, consulted with an expert on damage assessment. In the evening, training with a rope and a punching bag became a routine part of the day. On Thursday, Charlie sent a short letter. The birth record is all set. The father column is empty, confirmed. The hospital has updated the contacts. The legal part is finally closed. Andrew replied, "Got it. Thanks." He put the phone down and looked out the window at the river. It was quiet inside. Not joy, not sorrow, but a calm space in which to live. On Friday, he met Paul at a bar on River West. No loud music, just a simple burger and soda. "And how do you rate your week?" Paul asked. "Stable," Andrew replied. "No spikes. I did everything I planned. I canceled the unnecessary. I want to go to the museum on Sunday. I've been missing a walk without a goal for a long time." "Go," Paul said, "and leave the phone on silent." On Saturday, he and Lisa arrived at Emily's house half an hour early. Susan opened the door and stepped aside. No conversation. Andrew labeled the boxes while Lisa checked the list. 40 minutes later, everything was in the car. Susan said goodbye. "Let everything go calmly." "That's what I'm counting on," he replied. In the evening, he arranged the books he had brought in the aparthotel, secured the shelf, and hung the jackets in the closet. He placed a small cactus he had bought on the way on the table, not a symbol, but simply a plant that was easy to care for. He attached a sheet of paper with a schedule for the following week to the refrigerator. Sports, work, 2 meetings with clients, 1 hour of nothing. On Sunday, he walked through the halls of the Institute of Arts, where it was quiet and cool. He looked at the paintings without trying to find meaning. He just stood there and breathed evenly. On the way out, he bought a catalog of the current exhibition at a kiosk. He brought it home and put it on the table. At home, he wrote a short letter to Dr. Nguyen. The week went according to plan, managed to maintain boundaries, added boxing and volunteering. Emotions are balanced. The answer came quickly. Good pace. Continue. Introduce one new neutral activity every 2 weeks. Monday began with a short email from Jerome. Harbor Tech General meeting at 8:30. Judge expedited injunction hearing. Preparing oral arguments. Andrew arrived in the room early, laid out the folders, and pulled up a diagram of the arguments. Jurisdiction, preliminary injunction standards, evidence of damages, balancing of interests. By 8:30, the team had assembled. Claire with a notepad, Matt with printed affidavits, junior lawyers with extracts from the parties' correspondence. Jerome began without preamble. The opponents have a new line: forum shopping and alleged violations of the Delaware Clause. We show that the choice of venue is provided for in the supplemental agreement signed after the merger. Andrew, you take the floor. Claire, questions on the facts. Matt, chronology, without unnecessary rhetoric. "Got it," Andrew said, and wrote the tenses on the board. 5 minutes facts, 7 law, 3 answer questions. The muting went on until midday. Carol came in halfway through, sat in the far corner, and listened as Andrew organized his arguments into short blocks. After the third round, she said, "Remove the phrase, as everyone knows. Judges don't like generalizations. Use numbers. Contract from Zero Fort Wealth, Clause 7.3, and get more specific about the damage. Loss of orders worth $3.2 million per quarter, with a link to the auditor's report. I will, Andrew replied and made changes to the cards. In the afternoon, the client's representatives arrived. Harbor Tech CFO Linda Chang and General Counsel Mike Erskine. They discussed the risks in the conference room without a coffee break. We were offered a truce for a week, Mike said, placing a draft agreement from the opponents on the table. The condition is that we do not submit public updates on the dispute, and they freeze several contracts. Andrew skimmed through the document. At the end was a vaguely worded clause about a joint press release. This point is dangerous, he said. You are not formally lying, but you are pushing the market to an erroneous conclusion. For a listing, this is an unnecessary question from the regulator. Linda looked up. We don't want problems with the SEC. But it's important for us not to lose clients this week. What do you suggest? An alternative without ambiguity, Andrew answered. A short standstill for 7 days without a press release and without promises of a forum. You keep silent about the essence. They do not interfere with deliveries and do not touch current applications. On the 9th day, a trial. Any beautiful wording will now work against you. Jerome nodded. I agree. We don't buy a week at the cost of reputation. Mike thought for a moment, then said, Let's go with your version. Linda, prepare a letter to the counterparties about the stability of supplies without mentioning the dispute. Andrew, add 1 page to the draft agreement and send it to 6. By 6 o'clock, the letter was out. At 7, the team broke up. Andrew stayed alone for 20 minutes, went over the speech again, removed 2 adjectives, and shifted the emphasis to the evidence from the affidavits. In the morning, he met Matt and Claire at the Dirksen building. They checked their bags at the entrance and went up to the right floor. The courtroom was sparsely populated. Judge Morales entered on time and got straight to the point. Each side will have 15 minutes. Begin, Mr. Miller. Andrew stood up and, without preamble, launched into a chronology. The supplemental agreement, the choice of forum, the parties' behavior after the merger. Then the standards for preliminary injunctions and why opponents fail them. No irreparable harm, half the damage is marketing projections, not facts, causation not proven. The opponent tried to steer the conversation towards forum shopping and justice. The judge clarified. Show me the document that prohibits this party from coming here. They didn't have any. Morals looked at his watch, gave them 3 more minutes, then turned to Andrew. Do you have anything to add regarding the balance of interests? Yes, Your Honor, Andrew said, referring to the client's affidavits, which recorded canceled orders and letters from suppliers. Every week of the blockade means disruptions to implementations, downtime for our clients, and fines under contracts. The opponent has no comparable risks. They continue to sell alternative components. The judge finished quickly. The court denies the preliminary injunction. With respect to preservation of evidence and non-disclosure of source code, the joint motion is granted. The preliminary schedule is on the clerk's desk. Thank you. In the hallway, Linda exhaled. This is important. We will have time to close the quarter. We're on schedule, Mike said. Andrew, good presentation. Convincing and without unnecessary words. Thank you, he replied. Next, the actual evidence and the examination. No press comments. Carol met them at the office. She rarely gave compliments, but today she said, The way you removed emotions and left bare facts is an example for the team. Fix the structure and hand it out to the juniors as a template. I will, Andrew said. By evening, an invitation to a partnership committee had arrived. The agenda was brief. Annual results, voting on candidates. He closed his laptop for an hour, walked around the block, and returned to the conference room at the appointed time. All the partners were sitting at the table. Jerome introduced the meeting. We have 3 candidates. Let's start with Andrew Miller. Indicators: billing above plan, high customer retention, No risks of conflicts of interest. Clients note the transparency of communications. Any questions? One of the partners asked. Were there any complaints about the tough style of negotiations? Carol replied, no, quite the opposite. He holds the line, but does not provoke. And he does not go public. This is rare these days. Another question concerned the development of the younger ones. He has 2-week feedback cycles, said Claire, who was brought in as the practice's manager. He edits texts openly, explaining why he's removing words. The error rate is dropping. The voting was without pause. Jerome recounted and smiled with his eyes. Unanimously, Andrew, congratulations. From the first partner, compensation standard formula, access to the credit line after signing the partnership agreement, vacation as agreed with the practice. Andrew nodded. Thank you. In return, I promise simple things, honest terms, no cosmetic phrases in documents, training juniors without shouting. And if you see that I go beyond the limits, tell me right away. After the meeting, he went into his office. A letter from Linda arrived. Thank you. The board of directors has approved a long-term contract. We want to expand the compliance mandate. He replied, ready. I will propose a team tomorrow. He typed a quick message to the team. Thanks everyone for working the court. Pizza downstairs tomorrow at 7:30, courtesy of the firm. Bring 1 point each to add to the oral argument cheat sheet. Claire responded first. I'll add a what to do when the judge interrupts block. Matt sent a checkmark emoji and the note. I'll get the printouts. In the evening, he called Lisa. I have news. From the first partner. Finally, she said, it's well deserved. Will we celebrate quietly or with noise? Calm down. We'll have dinner on Sunday. I'll stop by. Agreed. He didn't text Emily. He decided it wasn't news he needed to discuss outside the divorce. Instead, he wrote Patel a dry note. Status changes as of the 1st. Doesn't affect property division. Ready for the next mediation session. The next morning, he arrived early and drew up a document for internal training, the structure of an oral presentation at an interim measures hearing. It had 3 parts, facts down to the minute, law without clichés, and answers to expected questions. At the end, a checklist, remove generalities, insert document numbers, and don't promise what you don't control. He sent it out to the group and invited 3 juniors to a short session after lunch. That afternoon, Jerome called him into a client's office for a video call. On the screen were 4 faces from Harbor Tech. Mike said, we continue not only the dispute with you, but also the internal audit of contracts. We need a person who will tell us no if the text is dangerous. We do not put on someone else's risk classes. That's exactly our job, Andrew replied. I'll put Claire on audit. We'll agree on the dates today. The call took 20 minutes. Afterwards, Carol approached Andrew in the hallway. The main thing is not to spread yourself too thin. Delegate. You are now responsible not only for billing, but also for standards. People will look up to you. I understand, he said. I've already outlined who takes what. That evening, the pizza downstairs went without toast. They discussed speech technique, checklists, successful and unsuccessful approaches to judges. Andrew listened, asked short questions, and wrote down sentences. Case citation card, cues for colleagues in the courtroom, judge chart. After the pizza, he went up to his office, signed the partnership agreement, and picked up a clean nameplate with his new title from the reception area. On his desk was a piece of paper on which he had written down 5 rules for himself back in January. He pulled it out of the drawer and updated it. Facts first. No ambiguity in the documents. Maintain communication boundaries. Teach the younger ones specifically. Monitor and maintain your condition. He placed the paper under the glass of his desk. He set a reminder on his calendar for the following morning. University campus seminar confirm as speaker. The invitation had come from a professor he knew, to teach students about the practicalities of oral argument in court. It hadn't been part of his plan 6 months ago, But now he was ready. Before leaving, he wrote to Jerome, "Thank you for your trust. I am staying the course." The reply came quickly, "Trust is not a gift, but an exchange. You do your part." The invitation from the university had arrived early, but only now was Andrew in a state in which he could speak outside the case. The topic of the seminar was the practical side of oral presentations in court. The hall in the old law building was bright, with wooden benches and neat recording equipment. He began without introductory jokes. A brief outline, 3 cases, typical questions from judges, mistakes made by newbies, general phrases, lack of references to documents, attempts to talk about justice instead of legal norms. Students asked questions about the structure of the speech. One graduate student asked for an example of a tough but correct objection. Andrew showed the formulation without raising his voice. The audience became quiet not out of fear, but from the understanding that it was possible to argue without unnecessary pathos. At the end, he offered a short exercise. Formulate a crunch version of an argument in 1 minute. In the front row, a woman in a light sweater raised her hand. "I'm not a lawyer," she said. "I'm from the communications department, but I want to try." "Excellent," Andrew said. "The principle is the same for everyone." She confidently stated her position in 3 sentences without filler words. He noted this with a gesture. After applause, he was ushered into a small room behind the stage. The law professor thanked him and left for class. A woman from the front row knocked on the open door. "Can I just speak for a minute? I'm Jenna Hart. I teach argumentation and business communication. Thanks for the exercise. It's helpful for students to hear that brief doesn't mean superficial." "Andrew Miller," he introduced himself. "Pleased to meet you. You've got the point across very well." "That's my job," she smiled. "My colleagues and I argue with students no less than you do with your opponents." They walked out into the hallway. On the board was a poster for a discussion about ethics in public speaking. Jenna nodded toward the cafe on the first floor. "We have normal coffee there. Do you have 10 minutes? They will be found," he replied. The cafe was noisy but not crowded. They each had an Americano and found a table by the window. Jenna put a notepad on the table and drew a line in the margins. "I liked how you turned the conversation from slogans to documents," she said. "In our classes, people often think that persuasiveness is only charisma. I try to show that without facts, it quickly ends." "Charisma without content doesn't save you in court," Andrew nodded. "And vice versa. A calm voice with the right reference works better than a bright phrase." "Aha." She rested her chin on her palm. "Let me ask you a personal question with a professional subtext. How do you decide when to stop? Where is the line between getting results and overdoing it?" "I set a limit on arguments in advance," he said. "2 basic, 1 spare. If after the judge's clarifications I continue to explain the same circle, it means it's time to close. And also, I never write more on paper than I'm ready to say out loud." "Okay," she said. "I'll steal this for class." He chuckled. "Take it. I don't get paid separately for this." The pause was not awkward. They watched the students carrying thick folders through the glass doors, each thinking about his own. "I'll ask you a second question," Jenna said in a different tone. "It's personal, and you don't have to answer. You look like someone who's been through some tough stuff recently. You don't have to say what it is." "It's gone," Andrew said calmly. "The divorce is in progress. The legal part is closed. The rest is with the mediator." "Thank you for the direct answer," she said. "I'm divorced too. 3 years. No kids. I know how quickly strangers start giving advice." "We're the same with that," he replied. "I now value conversations where no one is trying to heal, and no one is rushing." "Then let's formulate simple rules," she suggested, already in a professional tone. "First, don't Google each other unless necessary. Second, don't ask questions the other person isn't ready to answer. Third, no to the rescue. We're not each other's experts." "Okay," he said. "And one more thing. I don't make romantic plans until we sign the final papers. We can have coffee, walk around campus, and discuss class materials. Nothing more. That makes sense, she nodded. Then let's start with something simple. We have an open lecture on public negotiations next week. Come as an audience member. If you like it, we'll discuss what we can do together for the students. I'll come, he said. They finished their coffee and parted at the stairs without further ado. He strolled through the campus bookstore, bought a mug with a logo and a thin book on the visual structure of speech. In his notebook, he made a note. Heart Communications. Rules set. Lecture Wednesday. He returned to the office with a slight sense of order. Client letters and a draft of the contract for a compliance audit for Harbor Tech were waiting on his desk. Claire looked in. How are the students? They're attentive, and they ask direct questions, he said. I agreed to read another block later. Okay, we need a stream of interns who can shorten texts, she noted. Then send them your cheat sheet for speeches. That evening, he received a quick text from Jenna. Thanks for the conversation. The seminar for tomorrow was canceled and has been replaced online. If you are on campus on Wednesday, please stop by the office, 3rd floor, 318. He replied, I will be there. I'll be up in a minute. The next day, he lived a normal schedule, a morning call with a client, a meeting on the mediation agreement, and preparing a team memo. No special events. He noticed that this became the main guideline. When the day is normal, everything is going as it should. On Wednesday, he arrived on campus early. The hallway of the communications department was filled with student posters about city hearings, interviews with alumni, and master class schedules. In room 318, Jenna was holding a consultation. On the desk were neat stacks of papers, and in the corner was a whiteboard with outlines of the structure of a presentation. She finished talking to the student and walked out into the hallway. 40 minutes until the lecture, she said. Let's go for a walk. We have a small room with acoustics. You can hear how speech sounds in an empty space. They went up to the 4th floor. The hall was indeed strange, no chairs, with smooth walls. The sound came back clean. Jenna asked, Try 1 minute from your unit yesterday. I want my students to hear the difference between choking on words and setting up supports. He spoke for exactly 1 minute. The echo showed where he was accelerating. She marked 2 places with her hand. Here is a pause. Here is an extra word. The rest is good. You have the ear of a music teacher, he said. My mother was a choir master, she replied. I grew up in a hall where everything is based on pauses and breathing. It helps in my work. Before the lecture, they stopped at the vending machine for water. Jenna said briefly, I don't know if we'll have anything further. Something else is important. I can talk to you calmly. That's rare. I have the same grade, he replied. I'm not in a hurry. But for coffee and lectures, yes. The lecture was lively. Jenna showed recordings of negotiations from public sources, how a manager agrees too early, how a politician resorts to generalities, how an entrepreneur holds the price and does not justify himself. She did not pretend to be a star. She gave practice and tools. At the end, the audience did not disperse immediately. Students surrounded her with questions. Will you take a couple of books from me? She asked afterward. For a week. Return them when it's convenient. I'll take it, he said. She took 2 volumes out of the cabinet, one on negotiations and one on transparency in corporate communications, and wrote his name down in her notebook. On the way out, they stopped at the glass doors. I'll be in town Sunday afternoon, Jenna said. If you want to hang out, text me in the morning. No strings attached. All right, he said. He returned to the office, put the emphasis on the memorandum, and agreed on the date of the next session with the mediator. In the evening, he went to training and for the first time noticed that his head did not return to the court. Every 5 minutes, new topics took its place. A lecture, students, books. On Sunday, he wrote briefly, free after 3, ready to walk. The answer came quickly. Harold Washington Library, new exhibition hall, then tea okay? They met at the main entrance. Jenna showed them a small corner with rare editions where it was quiet and cool. They moved slowly, like people who do not have the task of getting it all done. They discussed city lectures, how the language of public figures changes when they go online, and why it is difficult for adults to learn short formulations. Age makes people more cautious, she said. There is a fear of looking stupid, hence the verbosity. You see the same thing in court, he replied. Senior lawyers sometimes hide behind cumbersome phrases to avoid being trapped by a question. It's better to say I don't know and ask for a minute. I agree, she said. For me, maturity is the ability to recognize a gap and immediately offer a plan to close it. They went outside and into a small tea shop on the corner. It smelled of bergamot and freshly baked goods. Jenna had oolong tea, Andrew had black tea. They sat by the window and talked about schedules, without trying to guess each other's wishes. I don't like evening plans on weekdays, she said. By 9, I turn off my phone. That's not a pose. Otherwise, I'm a bad teacher in the morning. I'm also ineffective at this time, he replied. I work in the morning, and in the evening it's quiet. I stick to the schedule like a contract with myself. Agreed, she nodded. When they paid, she said, I'd be happy to have another Sunday trip somewhere without the crowd. Not every week, when the windows line up. It suits me, he said. They said goodbye at the metro. He walked to the aparthotel, not trying to invent the meaning of this walk. He liked that talking to Jenna didn't require effort and did not turn off the head. At home, he opened his notebook and added one line to his weekly plan. Sunday walks are optional. No promises, no checks, just an opportunity. He set Jenna's books on the table and noticed that one of them was already underlined in soft pencil. In the margin, someone's careful hand had written, Pause is not a weakness, but a tool. He smiled and closed the book. It was a simple rule that had worked in several places this week. He didn't write to Lisa or talk about it at work. This part of his life had no urgent matters or protocols. It unfolded slowly, and that suited him. On Saturday, they met at the entrance to Logan Square Market. It was cool, and vendors were setting out greens, apples, and bread. Jenna had come barefoot, carrying only a canvas bag. We'll take vegetables for the week and something for tea, she said. I like planning simple meals. I'm for it, Andrew replied. They walked along the rows, choosing carrots, lettuce, mushrooms. At the cheese stand, Jenna pointed to the goat cheese. For pasta for 2 days. Are you cooking? Rarely, he admitted, but I can follow instructions. Great. I'll write a list, she smiled briefly. On the way out, they sat down on a bench with paper cups. Jenna said without transition, Let me clarify our rules. Still no quick, romantic plans, no evening invitations during the week. But you can cook together and go on short trips during the day. It suits me, he said. I live more calmly according to the schedule. One more thing, she added. If you're feeling anxious, you say it straight out. No sarcasm or innuendo. We agreed, he replied. My alarm goes off now when I hear the words, let's formalize it, or let's speed it up. Then I won't say that, she nodded. In the evening, they stopped by Lisa's. The sister had a small kitchen, on the table salad, baked fish and bread. Lisa met Jenna without asking questions, offered tea, and sat her down next to her. Thank you for coming, Lisa said. I have a rule. We eat, we talk about anything, but we don't interrogate. I agree, Jenna replied. The conversation was about city concerts, books, and new cafes. Lisa asked, Do you teach argumentation? Yes, Jenna said. We teach people to be short and to the point. It's not about winning, it's about clarity. Sounds useful, Lisa noted. After dinner, Lisa helped clear the dishes. As she said goodbye to her brother. I feel calm from the way you talk. Continue like this. The next day, Jenna suggested a short trip. Let's go to St. Joseph, she said. Coffee on the way, an hour on the waterfront, then back. No overnight stay. It fits, he replied. The journey took less than 2 hours. The city was quiet. They walked to the pier, the wind was steady, the concrete slabs were covered with thin ice. Jenna took a scarf from her bag and handed it to Andrew. Take it. I took a spare one. Thank you, he said and wrapped his scarf around himself. Walking alongside each other was easy. They talked about things that are not usually discussed in first meetings: schedules, attitudes towards money, plans without dates. I save for big things early, Jenna said. I don't take out loans if I can avoid them. I like a steady pace. It's the same for me, he replied. After the court case, I want to live without sudden expenses. She stopped at the railing. About children. I don't say never, and I don't say urgently. It's more important for me to have stability in my head and in my everyday life first. How are you? I want to, but without a time frame, he said. After the divorce, I'll be careful. I need proven support, direct words and clear actions. Without, it will work out on its own. We match, she said. They went into a small bakery and got soup and tea. A retired couple was sitting at a table nearby, arguing about the bus schedule. Jenna looked at her watch. Are we going back? I have a lecture to prepare for in the evening. Let's go, he replied. On Monday, Andrew finished the last block with the mediator: taxes, closing the joint account, transferring small items. As he left the office, he called Jenna. We've signed everything. No scandals. All that's left is to wait for the final paper mark from the clerk. Good news, she said. Congratulations. No meetings today. I have consultations until 8. I can come over for an hour on Wednesday to make pasta from Saturday's purchases. Come, he replied. I have a saucepan and a frying pan. Will that be enough? Yes, she said. The rest is in the recipe. On Wednesday, she came exactly at 7. She brought a small cutting board and a knife in a case. It's not a gift, just something comfortable to wear for the evening, she warned. Together, they chopped vegetables, cooked pasta, and mixed it with cheese. At the table, Jenna pulled out a piece of paper. A plan for the next month. I'm not imposing it, it's just a suggestion. We cook twice, we go somewhere during the day twice, once a week any museum or lecture. If the week is overloaded, we move it without explanation. Okay, he said, I'll put it on the calendar. And one more thing. I'm not ready to spend the night at your place, she said bluntly. This is not about you, this is about my order. Respectfully, he replied. Then I have a request. If we're going to be late into the evening, I'll order you a taxi. No arguments. I agree, she nodded. Over the weekend, Andrew moved the rest of his belongings from his former home to a storage unit next to the aparthotel. He asked Jenna not to go with him. This is my part of the journey, he said. I don't want to mix it up. I understand, she said. Let me know if you need physical assistance. I can easily carry boxes. Thank you. I can handle it myself this time. The move took 2 hours. He signed the form, got the box code, put the books and tools on the shelves, and put on the labels. On the way back, he stopped at a furniture store in Fulton Market. He called Jenna from the parking lot. I need your opinion. I'm choosing a table and a chair. I'm stuck between two options. I'm nearby, she said. I'll come by in 15 minutes. From the store, they took a simple table and a hard chair with back support. This one will stand up to a lot of editing, Jenna said, and without any unnecessary bending. Andrew placed an order for delivery for the following week. At the checkout, he asked, Will you help me collect it? I will, she replied, but not today. I have a rule of not staying out in the evening. Fine. In the middle of the week, Andrew spoke at an internal training session at the firm, went to a boxing match in the evening. On Thursday, he received a letter from the clerk, divorce registered. There were no fireworks inside. It was smooth. He sent a quick text to Jenna, document received. She replied, I see. I'll take you to a place with quiet jazz on Sunday afternoon. No alcohol, just music and tea. He agreed. On Sunday, they met in the South Loop. The cafe with live music was open only during the day. 3 musicians played at low volume. People were talking in low voices. Jenna pointed to a table against the wall. There is no wind here. They listened to a set of standards and talked about teaching practices. Jenna said, "My students often ask for the secret of confidence. I answer that there is no secret. A plan, rehearsal, short phrases, and vanity is the enemy. It's the same in court," he replied. "When you want to please, you miss the important stuff." After the music, they walked a block to the bookstore. Andrew picked out a thick paper notebook. "For recording without phones," he explained, "I don't need to keep everything in apps." "It's a good habit," Jenna said. On the way out, they stopped at a traffic light. Jenna said without raising her voice, "I'll give you a key to my office at the university. It's not an invitation to live. It's access to a quiet place if you need to work in the city between meetings. There's water, a printer, and Wi-Fi. Just let me know when you're coming." "I'll take it," he replied. "In exchange, I'll give you the contact information for the receptionist at my aparthotel in case you need to pass me something when I'm in court. No meeting at the door." "It fits," she said. "These are the little things that work." The table arrived on Wednesday. They assembled it in 40 minutes. Jenna read the instructions. Andrew tightened the screws. Finally, she checked the table for wobble and tightened one screw. "It's done," she said. "Now you have a place to work at home." "Finally," he replied. They placed a lamp on the table and folded the neat presentation cards into a drawer. Jenna glanced at her watch. "I have to go. I'll leave my knife with you until the next time I cook. Just don't cut the cardboard with it." "I won't." When the door closed, Andrew sat down at his new desk, put down his notebook, and wrote down a few simple points. 1. The rules with Jenna are working. 2. My home is a work in progress, no rush. 3. Divorce is closed. 4. The next step is to find a permanent apartment by summer. He marked a day on his calendar to look at rental options and closed his laptop. They went to a small antique shop in Pilsen over the weekend. Jenna picked out frames for school posters. Andrew picked out wall hooks. The shop assistant explained how to hang heavy items without making holes. They each bought one inexpensive item and headed out. "I don't collect symbolic items," Jenna said. "I collect things I'll use." "Me too," he replied. "My home must be understandable." They went into a Mexican bakery and got coffee and sweet rolls. At the table, Jenna asked, "Do you have a vacation in the summer?" "A week at the end of July," he said. "No plans." "Then we can think of a short weekend trip in May-June. I know a quiet trail in Wisconsin and a small hotel without loud music. Only if you are comfortable by then." "We'll agree on this closer to the moment," he said. "I'm not saying yes in advance, but I like the idea." By the end of the month, their routine had settled in. 2 dinners together, 1 museum, 1 walk. No late nights, no unexpected visits. Andrew noticed he stopped checking his phone every 5 minutes. It was a clear, calm connection, no games. One day, Jenna sent a short voice message. "No energy today. We'll text tomorrow." He texted back, "Rest, no need for anything." The next morning, she sent a weekly list. No apologies, just the facts. That suited them both. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one.